Committee for Thursday, December 4th. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm asking Chris Branscombe to please lead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so very much. We're going to begin with roll call next.
Thank you. Good morning. Director Boomgarden,
Here.
Branscombe,
Yes, ma'am.
Chapman,
Here.
Clarici,
Yo.
Early,
Here.
Jennings absent, Jones absent, Budge for Sander,
Here.
Vice Chair Desmond absent, Vice Chair Howdeshelt.
You're
No
muted,
vote.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm having a hard time connecting my AirPods to this. And it sounds really low. I'm here.
Thank you. Chair Lauren
Here.
and ex officio member Costa for Aceves. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome Bruno Costa from Caltrans here today. All right. We're going to go into public comment. Are there for any persons wishing to address the committee on any items that aren't on the agenda today? We have a 3-minute time period we'll give you. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment?
There's no comment under public communications.
Is there anybody online?
There's no,
Seeing none, we'll move to disclosures. This motion is on behalf of Hoodishaw. There you are online. Directors will disclose any item in which they have a conflict of interest under state law and acknowledge whether they recuse themselves from that item. Moving to the consent calendar. We have 2 items today on our consent calendar. Item 1 is the minutes from November 6th, and item 2 is the Regional Project Prioritization Program
Chair
staff
Lauren.
recommendations. Did I
we
miss
just
something?
have the one item on consent,
Oh.
just the minutes.
I'm sorry, I moved to action too fast.
That's okay.
Just one. I'm looking for a motion. Moved.
Second. Before we vote, just want to ask a public comment.
Okay. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
There's no public comment.
All right, seeing none, we have a motion by Chapman and a second by Clarici. All in favor?
Aye.
We have to
Aye.
actually do it online because we have 2 members online
Oh,
today, so
right.
we'll be doing it in roll call.
Roll call.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Took me a minute. Got it.
No problem. Director Boomgarden,
Aye.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Chapman,
Aye.
Clarici,
Aye.
Early,
Aye.
Jennings absent, Jones absent, Budge,
Abstain. I wasn't there.
Vice Chair Desmond absent, and Vice Chair Howdeshelt,
Aye.
and Chair Lauren.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Motion passes. Great. We're going to be moving to the action section of our calendar today, and we're going to be beginning with the 2026 Regional Project Prioritization Program, and it'll be presented by Dustin Foster. Welcome, Dustin.
Thank you, Chair Lauren. Good morning, directors.
Morning.
Aye.
Hi. All right, yeah, my name's Dustin Foster here on the transportation team, working in transportation planning for our region's grants and funding strategy. Today's item is a part of SACOG's external grant strategy for the region to advocate with a unified voice to the state and federal government and to increase success in grant awards. I'm proud to present to you our recommended list of projects, and this is my first cycle leading our grants prioritization. So the staff recommendation action item before you is staff are asking you to recommend to the board to approve the recommended list of projects for the program in the federal funding programs actively pursuing grants and projects in development categories. For an overview of our agenda this morning, we'll start with an overview of the program. We'll describe our process this cycle, and then we'll show the recommended priority projects. To start with the purpose overview of the program, this program started in 2024 based on feedback from federal partners on our process for providing letters of support for competitive grant programs. They recommended that we take on a strategic approach by identifying our top priority for these programs. So we have held an internal review process to identify projects that advance our blueprint, are good fits for the program that they intend to apply, and are ready to deliver. We also use this list in our advocacy, such as the Cap to Cap brochure you all have before you. We had it at the table at the front. And we have had success with this program already, with the Grant Line Road Safety Project, shown here, receiving a RAISE grant award last year after it was added to the list. We also recently saw our partners in Placer County receive a $20+ million build grant award for the SR 65 to southbound I-80 project, which was also prioritized in the list last year, right? So really between, providing this list and doing the advocacy and the technical support, we really hope to increase our odds of success. And to really be more clear and clarify what this program is and isn't, this is SACOG's effort to coordinate with regional partners to identify regional projects and recommend priorities for specific federal and state programs. But this is not a promise of funding from the SACOG funding round. SACOG is not offering to lead the effort, and we do not provide, this does not provide an advantage or preclude your agency from applying to the SACOG funding round or your targeted programs. It's really about supporting the project's lead agency with advocacy, technical support, and really on that external grant strategy side. And we have a great program FAQs page, kind of spelling a lot of this out, so please take a look there. So you might be wondering, how does this program implement the awesome blueprint that you all approved just 2 weeks ago? It is really about advancing those regional transportation projects that are listed in the blueprint. We checked to make sure that those projects were in alignment. And looking at the blueprint revenues, it's really targeting the federal competitive with this cycle, but also the state competitive programs. It's not the formulaic programs that we control. It's really about increasing that part of the pie chart there. And these are assumptions that we bake into our blueprint revenue assumptions, but they're not actually guaranteed, right? We need to be strategic and put forward the best project to get funded by those programs and realize that 8%. And we have a jurisdiction highlights section in the document. 7 of the recommended projects, of the 23 recommended projects, are in that jurisdiction highlights, so we're really moving the blueprint priorities forward. So eligible programs this round were major federal grant opportunities, including the ones listed there on the screen. We also opened it up to other programs led by Federal Transit Administration or Federal Rail Agency, in addition to the FHWA programs listed there. And we delayed the SB1 call for projects until spring 2026 to give us time to develop the in-progress US 50 CMCP and the recently completed SR 99 CMCP. And the SB1 programs will go out later next year, so we'll be right on track for that one as well. So for our timeline, it kicked off in September, mid-September. We had about a month-long consultation period with local agencies, held consultations, sent mass emails to our 170+ partner contact list for that first month. Once after the applications were turned in by October 24th, we then for the next month reviewed the projects internally, screened them, processed them, and make sure they're eligible. But I'll describe a bit of that more on this slide here. So just a bit more on our process, the consultations from September 15th to October 23rd. We held 24 meetings with 21 prospective applicants, and we discussed 54 projects. Moving on to the applications submitted by October 24th, we had 18 applicants submitting 34 applications. We had a few carryover projects from last cycle. And in total, these projects are above $3 billion in total project cost, right? That's just under $100 million per project, really showing the regional nature of this program. Moving on to project screening, a lot of work processing the applications, make sure they're eligible, that they're within the 6-county region. There's one project way out there up in Placer County, that these projects were consistent with the blueprint. They were federal aid eligible. The lead agency was federal aid eligible, and the project was eligible for that funding program. So once we moved from that into SACOG internal evaluation. So 3 teams on SACOG's, here at SACOG, staff from each was on that evaluation panel, and we scored these projects on 3 criteria: regional benefit, competitiveness for the program, and readiness. It was on a 1 to 10 scale for each of those, and the total you see before you is out of 30. And just to level set, I think on the support that SACOG will be able to provide. So you want to be clear, on the technical assistance we can provide all projects, and then the recommended projects specifically. And again, this is a cross-team collaboration. It's led by transportation, but we include support from the government public affairs team, planning and programming team, and data analysis team. So this work wouldn't happen without really a full agency-wide effort and staff across the agency that we really appreciate their contributions to this as well. So in early 2026, we'll be sitting down with all the applicants and providing debriefs, feedback on their application. For those recommended projects, we'll be preparing for the upcoming cycle and scoping the level of support we can provide. There's 23 projects on the list, a few staff here supporting, so we really want to be strategic with that support we can provide. But really all projects really have access to the technical assistance, and all project leads have access to the technical assistance that SACOG can provide on grant strategy. Always happy to discuss projects and potential grant programs, but also providing the programming and project delivery support we provide to every project throughout the region. We'll also be doing program monitoring, making sure those notices of funding opportunities are coming out and sharing those with the list. But if you are going to apply for that program, the recommended projects will get a letter of support. We'll review the grant, we'll provide feedback. Those other projects that are still applying, we can provide a letter of consistency with the blueprint after we review the scope. And secondary priority is an important kind of thing to talk about here, because if the program changes or for some reason the recommended project isn't able to apply, we can identify a secondary priority. I'll say a bit about the one secondary priority we have recommended so far. And then, really all this, this particular federal round is building to federal advocacy at Cap to Cap next year. So we'll build a new brochure for this recommended project list. Okay, so now we'll get into the recommended projects. Over the next few slides, I'll be presenting 3 kind of separate lists. And generally, so this first list are the carried forward projects from last year. These were prioritized and they're actively pursuing federal grants, but they're on this list for a few reasons. Either they didn't have a chance to apply, are still waiting to hear back from the program, or are still working through those grant agreements. So, these 4 projects, great regional projects that we're carrying forward. So now on to the new recommended projects. These are our prioritized projects, actively pursuing grants in the next year. Again, newly recommended projects. Some of these programs like Build, Infra, and Safe Streets for All were highly competitive, while other programs such as Build Planning, CRISI, and RCE were single applications, so less competition, but still they had to really meet the bar in terms of program fit and deliverability. And generally these decisions came down to those 2 metrics. On that secondary priority there for Envision Broadway and Oak Park, Sacramento County staff are still waiting to hear back from the program on whether their project was funded. They submitted it late June this year. So if it is funded, we'll be providing a letter of support to that Envision Broadway project if they apply. So the third list is a newer category for this round. It's projects in development. And we have 2 slides for this. There's a lot of projects in development that we're supporting. So this is a newer category, projects that were not prioritized for a particular program and may not be ready to apply for a grant in the next year, but they were identified to receive strategic support from SACOG to help incubate the project, move it forward to the next phase, and develop a funding strategy. These 2 categories are pipelines, right? We're kind of moving projects through that pipeline. And one for managed lanes, right? Working with Caltrans on those. And then the SVS, Sac Valley Station Rail Yards Access Pipeline. We received a lot of applications for projects that are either at Sacramento Valley Station or accessing Sacramento Valley Station. And we determined this would be a great opportunity to coordinate partners and really determine a phasing and bundling of these projects for future grant opportunities. So we'll see this pipeline move forward as well. And finally, just additional projects in development. We have the Stockton Safety and Transit Enhancement Project, or the BRT project, moving forward. A few active transportation projects, the Truckee River Trail, and the Winters overcrossing there remains on the list. And then a rural project and 2 interchange/overcrossing projects. So for next steps, as noted, we'll be in early next year holding debriefs and scoping support with all the applicants. In April, many folks in the room will be traveling to cap and advocating for the recommended list. And then we'll be doing throughout the year ongoing monitoring, collaboration with partner agencies, really evolving the program, keeping it relevant, and then just an update. And see at the bottom there's a little cutoff. But in the spring we'll be kicking off the SB1 programs, and then in the fall, this is an annual program, so we plan to release this cycle for federal programs in the fall. So again, your action before you is to recommend to the board to approve the staff recommended list of projects in the projects actively pursuing federal grants and projects in development categories. Thank you for your attention, and we're here for any questions.
Thank you so much, Dustin. I really appreciate it, your presentation. Do we wish to discuss or go to public comment first?
Public comment for me.
Okay, Director Early.
Oh, no, I said public comment.
Okay.
Would be great.
Let's go to public comment. We have a public comment by Kevin Busey. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. I'm gonna put a timer on because I went long last time, so that might help a little. I put a timer on for 40
While
minutes.
you're putting your timer on, I forgot to welcome Director Rick Jennings. Thank you. Hi.
Yeah, so good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. Kevin Busey, Executive Director of Sacramento Transportation Authority. So I'll try to be brief here. First we support the intent here of the prioritization effort, focusing the region on the most competitive projects at the federal level, and then building a longer term pipeline around key corridors. I think is going in the right direction. From a Sac County perspective, I want to make 2 quick points. First, this builds on a lot of countywide work that's happening through SDA and our professional advisory group. We had SACOG present to our PAG on what this process is and how to apply for that. And then in addition to that, we convened all the agencies within Sacramento County to do a prioritized list of what the county priorities were. We submitted that letter to SACOG on November 7th. And so there's just a lot of effort at the local level to sort of try to align behind some of these priorities, as well as aligning some of our self-help funding. And then second, On this new pipeline idea, I just really would encourage SACOG to treat these as more of a collaborative effort and not as a separate kind of regional layer. So for things like the managed lanes pipeline and the Sac Valley Station rail yards access, county-wide agencies like myself will be key partners in putting the funding packages together and keeping local support behind those. And then SACOG's prioritization and pipelines should complement, I think, what's already happening at the county level and at the local level. So my request with this action is when a project is placed in development pipeline, we should really include that collaboration between the regional countywide agencies as well as a local project sponsor. So should include coordination with SDA, EDCDC, PCTPA, and YOLO TD. And with that, I'm appreciate the time. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Seeing no other public comment in person and no public comment online, we will move to our discussion. Director Early?
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. So advocacy at Cap to Cap, you mentioned that a couple times. I do attend Cap to Cap, but haven't necessarily been involved in the transportation team. So what exactly does that look like, and what are the roles played normally by directors, and then also any suggestions of roles or responsibilities that you would like to, right? If you had your dream world.
Yeah, I can take that. So one of the big things that we heard a few years ago, and Dustin touched on this from some of our electeds in DC, was that we didn't seem to have a coordinated strategy as a region, that there were a lot of applications going in for the same programs, and they didn't know which one was our priority. So we started this effort to at least identify some kind of priority for the big programs that we could collectively as a region speak to. So we developed the handout that lists all of the projects, and it kind of gets integrated into the talking points that the team has with whoever we are meeting with. And sometimes it's focused on certain projects that we know are, might be priorities of the electeds in terms of like the subject matter. But it is something that we kind of educate the whole team on as we go through the process and get them familiar with those projects and know to speak to those projects when we're there. But it's not just based on what we do in DC. I think it's also from a local perspective. We have a lot of sway when we talk to our electeds here, like on our home turf, right? But also anybody else that's in the region that we can rally behind. So even if it's trying to get, all of you together to say like, yes, this is what we really want to move forward. This is why it's important, not just to the agency that's applying, but to the region as a whole. I think we have this story that we can tell. So we can talk a little bit more offline about what it means specifically, like if you're going to Cap this year, like how, if you're not on the transportation team, how you can talk about it.
Yes, ultimately I was asking about myself.
Yeah, we can talk about that, because it is a little bit harder if you're not in any of the team briefings and going to those meetings. But I think there's still an opportunity for anybody that goes to be able to share how they feel about certain projects and how they can help move these along.
Dr. Early, just a very specific instance from last year when many of us were back, including Christina, in this meeting. There was a very particular meeting on the Hill where we had a lot of elected officials and partner agencies, and we walked through a lot of our priorities. And the member of Congress said, well, how do I help you? And we said, well, turn the page over. Those are all active grants. And so if you can please put a phone call into US, okay, that's great. Now I know what to do, right? So, I mean, it really is as simple. What you don't want to do is talk about a lot of local issues and challenges we're having, and then we don't have an answer to how do I help you? This is the answer to how do I help you? And the shorter list, which is what we're trying to do with prioritization, is the key, that we don't have 100 different projects, but we have a handful.
And just remind me, because we saw a couple of lists. Would it be, which list, if there was, would be the one that would at least be talked about or discussed at Cap to Cap?
They'd all be on there.
Okay, got it.
We'd show them all. It wouldn't necessarily be organized the way you see it. I think if you take a look at the handout from last year's, it's a good example. If we don't necessarily say these are actively pursuing grants and this is the specific grant, it's more just illustrating these are the priority projects, because there could be a whole new grant program that might open up that we may be able to talk about, or just putting them in front, right? So that they're on the front burner for our electeds for funding opportunities, because there's other things that come through. So
Thank you, that was helpful.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah,
The
Director
approach
Branson.
that was undertaken last year perfect. A full page, single spaced, you can't show that to somebody, and expect something to happen. 5 bullet points, you can win. That's the approach.
High praise, Director Branscombe.
Yeah,
high
Les,
praise.
he said perfect.
Yeah. I think staff's really proud of that. Other contributions, Director Boomgarden?
Thanks. I think that, you look at lists, and those of us in the hinterlands who may not have as robust a staff to prepare, I think really do try and rely on SACOG and some of the guidance. And so going forward, I will speak for Yuba City specifically. We really value the opportunity to get feedback and want to take advantage of that. And I think that's one of the key points going forward is any help you can provide some of us who don't have a whole grouping of folks, I think is well appreciated. There's winners and losers in this thing. I don't consider us a loser. I consider us as still in the game, but we need your help. Thanks.
Thank you so very much. And being also of a small rural city, you speak for me. Other comments, Director Branscombe?
I'll move the matter.
All right,
Second.
Thanks. I was just going to ask if there's more conversation online before we move our first and our second. Director Clarici.
Second?
He did.
Well, no, Canny.
Kenny from,
Participating.
Yes,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
yes, you may.
I thought like they can't vote or something. Maybe that was another meeting. I'm sorry. That's a hell of a second.
I just wanted to say a few things. I appreciate that we are moving forward as a regional body, that this is a competitive program for projects, that there have been consultations, applications, screening and evaluation, and that we will move forward with one voice because as a region, that's how we get stuff done. I'm all about that. Any other comments? We have a motion by Branscombe and a second by Howdeshelt. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Director Boomgarden,
Yes.
Branscombe,
Yes.
Chapman,
Aye.
Clarici.
Yep.
Early,
Aye.
Jennings,
Yes.
Jones absent, Budge for Sander,
Yes.
Vice Chair Desmond absent, Vice Chair Howdeshelt,
Aye.
and Chair Lauren.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. For the next informational item, item number 3, we'll be pulling that item and presenting it in the future. And we will be moving to item number 4, the Mobility Zones Project Prioritization Framework. And definitely not Justin, but I'm not sure of your name. Is it? Oh, Justine, that's it. I read it wrong. Okay. Justine Aricio Patel, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, directors. My name is Justine Aresha Patel with the SACOG Transportation Team. I'm joined today, sorry? No. Oh, sorry. I'm joined today by Sarah Steinberger from our technical analysis team at STEER. We'll be presenting an information item on the project prioritization framework. The framework that we're presenting today describes how our team has been working closely with our community partners and jurisdictional staff to develop transportation projects, screen them for project feasibility, and evaluate how they perform, with the goal of selecting 6 early action projects for advancement in 2026. So we'll walk you through where we are in the process and what comes next. Oh, that's the mic. So to give you an overview of today's agenda, I'll start with a quick project recap. 2025 has been a big year for us, so I'm just going to review some of the work that we presented to the Transportation Committee and the board. And then Sarah will give an overview of the selection process and walk through the criteria that we're using to evaluate these project concepts. And then I'll close out with some next steps and tell you about our upcoming appearances before the board and what to expect over the next few months. Okay. So if you recall, in May 2025, the board adopted the final list of the 10 phase 1 mobility zones. These are the places in our region where we see the strongest overlap of need and transportation challenges, and where our committees asked us to focus both our analysis and our outreach. So again, from these 10 zones, our project team is scoped to advance just one project in each county for a total of 6. Soon after the 10 zones were adopted, our project team launched a needs assessment to get a clearer picture of the specific transportation challenges within each zone. And across 5 categories, these categories are bicycle infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure, safety, transit, and access to destinations. And we brought these findings to you in early September. So to move from those findings and toward identifying our 6 early action projects, we've been working through this multi-phase process. This phase has brought together a lot of community outreach. We've been co-creating solutions with the community and coordinating with jurisdictional staff and running our own technical analysis as well to make sure that the projects that we elevate will reflect community priorities and realistically be deliverable in the near term. So I'll turn things over to Sarah for an overview of our methodology.
Thanks, Justine. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Steinberger. I am the project manager for STEER. We're the technical consultant team on the Mobility Zones project. So if you want to go to the next slide, Justine. And there's some text here if you want to just click through. Yep, thanks. So just going to give a high-level overview of our prioritization process, which is going to take us from over 100 community-generated project ideas to, as Justine mentioned, 6 early action projects to receive Mobility Zones funding. So just to ground us quickly, so you can see in the bottom left corner, the purpose of this exercise is to continually filter down the project list to advance projects that most respond to community needs and priorities, as well as the goals that we defined in the beginning of the project, and then projects that are ready for implementation. So as Justine mentioned, over the summer, we presented existing condition and needs assessments to community members, engaged in a series of workshops where there were over 100 project ideas generated. We then met with cities, counties, and transit agencies to refine the project list and conducted some early technical work to go from a long list of 57 projects down to a short list of 33 high priority projects. So that's where we are now in the process, and that's about 3 to 5 projects per mobility zone. There's 10 zones. We then evaluated those projects against a set of criteria that I'll review on the next slide and gathered community feedback to gauge the level of support. And all of this is going to be used to support community committees in January in nominating 1 project per zone as an early action candidate. And then those 10 projects will go to the task force in early February to select 1 project per county. So let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is just a very high level summary of how we evaluated the 33 high priority projects. There's a much more detailed methodology section in the agenda packet, but overall, just want to say I think our approach can really be described as a qualitative process informed by quantitative data, so rooted in a lot of the existing condition data and research that we did into these project benefits. So the first category is access and quality of life. So this is tied to mobility zone program goals around safety, access to destinations, multimodal connectivity, and public and environmental health. So here we looked at how effective each project is at advancing each goal. So, for example, how well does a transit shelter versus a bike lane versus a sidewalk project address safety based on kind of similar projects and research findings, and then how well does it address the needs in the specific location where the project would be implemented. The second category is about advancing equity and being responsive to community identified needs and preferences. So, is the project located in an equity priority community? How well does it address comments received during engagement, and what is the level of support among community members? And then lastly, is it in an area that historically hasn't seen as much investment as other areas throughout the region? The third category is delivery. So this is where we look at things like cost, time frame, fundability, which is, are there other potential funding sources besides mobility zones, or is this really something that's most likely to get funded only through mobility zones? And then the level of jurisdictional support. So this is among project sponsors, municipalities, transit agencies where the projects are located. And then the last is project phase. So is it, something that's more of a visioning type study, or is it closer to, is it a shovel-ready project that's really ready for implementation? So we developed rubrics to score each of these criteria and categories. And then that plus the underlying data is what we'll be providing to community committees in January to help kind of see them, what's driving the evaluation, and help them nominate early action candidate projects. Next slide. So this just shows a pretty high-level conceptual example of how the evaluation works and what communities might see. So moving from left to right, you have the project, the zone, the type of project, and then you can see, low to high ratings for each of the individual criteria. So those are in the lighter colors. And then there's aggregated summary scores for each of the categories that are shown by the circles. So again, this is a qualitative approach informed by quantitative data and research to really give us a general sense of how the projects compare, help committee members address trade-offs or assess trade-offs, and then ultimately to get us from the 33 high priority projects that we have now down to 6, which is what we'll be focusing on over the next 3 months. So I will pass it back to Justine to talk a bit about next steps.
Thanks, Sarah. So for next steps, in late December, each community committee will be provided with the project packets containing the analysis that Sarah described, the results of our community engagement, and some comments from jurisdictional staff as well, and a set of memos and materials that have shaped the project so far. And they'll be asked to review these packets, and in January, recommend one early candidate action project for each zone. And then in February, the Mobility Zones Task Force will convene, and representatives from each committee, including municipal and technical committee representatives, will identify 6 early action projects that will move forward for near-term implementation. And so by March, we're expected to have a clear set of projects, and we'll be back before you and the rest of the board with a final list. And pending board approval, staff will work with jurisdictions to program funds for early action projects and support local implementation. That's it for me and Sarah. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, I think we still have time for that.
Thank you so very much. I'm looking forward to the project list in March. Do the directors have questions? Director
Just real
Branscombe.
quick, what's the estimated cost and what's the prospect for funding?
Of the total program. So right now we have kind of high level cost estimates. So we've sort of given.
Best guess.
Yeah, well, we're calling them cost opinions. So pretty much every project that we have, we've given sort of a low, medium, high. So low is like, if it's under $2 million, 2 to 5 would be like mid-level, and over 5 would be high level. So once we go to the community committees and we understand what the priority projects are, we're going to undergo further refinement to kind of get a closer, ballpark of what the cost could be. But I think given where we're at, it could be, I don't want to. Maybe Kathleen can add. I'll let Kathleen take that one.
Excuse me.
I would say maybe 10 to 12 million. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. So each individual project ranges, I would say, between 500,000 and over 2 million. We've really been trying to laser focus on projects between 1 and 2 million. So all along, we've been asking for really small tactical transportation improvements. So times 6, 10-ish million total.
I get it. And I understood you cut it down to 37 that you're looking at now from the total number of opportunities. So there's going to be another big cut.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, January we'll be going from, there's like 3 to 5 for each of the 10 mobility zones. So we'll be narrowing that down further to 1 per zone. So that'll be
Cost is
10
always
projects.
important to mention.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Do we have other questions? Yeah, Director Chapman.
And there was an initial like 5 million, right? Is that through a raise grant for this? Is that included in is that for the work that's being done now, or is that put towards the 10 million they're talking about?
I'm going to let Kathleen answer that as well.
You're getting your steps in.
Yeah, you are.
So SACOG was awarded $5 million, which we matched with 1.3. So we had $6.3 million to do this project. Of that original award, we've retained about $1.2, $1.3 million to implement these projects. And then the board, through an action in, I want to say about April of 2023, designated federal carbon reduction program funding to implement these projects. So we have dedicated funding set aside to implement these 6 projects. So when we come back to you in March, we're going to have 6 projects with money ready to go, and that's the action you'll be considering.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Director Jennings.
Just a timeline question, because you probably said it and I was busy writing, didn't hear it. I understand that there are 33 high priority projects. We're trying to get it down to 6. Got $6.3 million, all that kind of stuff. But I'm looking at your timeline and it seems like we're here in December and we're going to have this list of 6 by March. And I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen from now to March that gets us to 6, and what is our involvement in any of that?
Sure. Robert, could you put the slides back up? And go back 1 slide, I think. 2, 1 more. Yes. Oh, perfect. So we are here, that blue line between the gray boxes and the pink boxes. So next in December, we have our first committee meeting with our city and county and regional transportation agency partners. So they're going to be looking at that list of 33 with the evaluation results. So which of the 33 scored the highest quantitatively, and they're going to be giving us feedback on that. We're going to take the feedback from the city and county partners and go to our 5 community committees in January. They're going to review just the projects per each county, and they're going to make a recommendation on the top priority project per county. Then it will go to the projects task force, and it'll be back to the board in March for transportation committee and board. I'll just remind the committee that this project is using a community collaborative and co-creation structure. So where we work really robustly with community-based organizations to do a lot of the decision-making and bring to you recommendations from those community committees rather than workshopping recommendations with you all at the board level.
So we won't have a role until March.
That's correct.
That just takes away a lot of my control.
Well, and Director Jennings, I mean, if I could, the foundation of this Mobility Zones project, frankly, is that, and it gets back to meaningful community engagement, a lot of our equity work, which is really for us, this is very different. Alongside your jurisdictions, we are actually going out and asking these communities and what their challenges are and trying to address these as relatively for transportation, low-cost interventions, right? Low-cost projects. So that is right. We are trying to do this a lot more bottom-up than we've ever done it before, learning alongside our cities and counties. And there's actually a lot that we have learned that we're not even including today, but we would love to come back to you with next year, you know, in terms of community engagement, community priorities, how that sometimes conflicts with what we see in our planning and everything else. So there's a lot more. There's a lot of fertile ground in this project, but yes, you won't see us again or them again till March.
Okay. And so we have no role whatsoever between now and March.
No, and you normally don't, right? I mean, you have an approval role. If we're doing a federal funding round next year, your jurisdictions would submit in the traditional funding rounds projects, and then we would go through and evaluate everything, and then we come to you for the approval. So in that way, it's not really different.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that we can't in some way observe the process?
If you would like a briefing or this is a really, really different and interesting project. It hits on many of the goals of the REI working group that you have been working on so hard with everybody else. Meaningful community engagement. Absolutely. And we'd happy to set up a lunch or whatever you need to, learn more. We're not planning to be quiet on this. We're just giving you an update really. And
so last question, will we get a progress report prior to March?
Sure. I'd be happy to provide an update on where we're at out of community committees into task force. I just need to look at schedule with packets, but I think I should be able to provide another update.
I'm just saying, like, if the process that you have in place is not working to your total satisfaction, coming back in front of us might help to give you some ideas, like an update along the way to us that helps. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to not lose total control as an elected.
We would never do that to you.
No,
There really is a
Appreciate the
lot, there's a lot of
question.
really
Coach?
interesting ones.
Coach has to get the ball down the field, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No question. No, I like the process. I do. I think a lot of work has been put into it and I believe in the community process. I do. But okay, that's good. I'm good.
Thank you so much. The directors that are online, do you have any clarifying questions or comments? I see that Director Haudashelt has his hand up.
Yeah,
Mr.
thanks,
Chair,
Chair
yeah.
Lauren.
Hey,
So I assume that in the executive director's report and at board meetings, there might be updates that help Director Jennings and the rest of us track the mobility zone progress. Is that a fair assumption? I mean, we all got a lot of reading to do. So some of us, like me, need to be spoon-fed this stuff. But is that a place where there would be progress reports between now and?
If you want progress reports, we've got progress reports. I mean, honestly, it's great to see this level of interest and engagement, right? There's a lot of fertile ground in this whole project around mobility zones and the grant that we received. You have had intermittent, I mean, there's been a lot of this. You remember we went down to 10 zones. There was a lot of talk about that and back and forth. So absolutely, the answer is yes. You want progress reports? We'll put it in my executive director update, whatever else you need. We'll do a lunch. It's great. We
thank
love it.
you. Any follow-up questions, Director Haudashelt? No, okay, Director Clarici.
I think, oh God, I'm to maybe dip into this one more time. I think maybe the idea is also, you're gonna go back to the counties and talk. I'm not sure if this is where you're going or not, but this is where my brain took me. Influencing that discussion, talking to those people. And if we know when you're gonna do that, then we can go and talk to our people in those committees and get our thoughts on the table, rather than, I think the challenge is if it comes back here, even through a very well thought out and wonderful process, you're getting it in like the middle and maybe even the end. And then that influence disappears. They basically ask you to make a decision about a thing you might not have been involved in too much. I think having updates is good. That'll help. But I think knowing when you're all going to talk to, like, I'll take my slice of heaven, El Dorado County, would be useful. So knowing that helps.
Yes, I don't have my calendar. Do you know, is it the 12th?
It's fine. You don't have to tell me today.
The
but I'm
task
just-
force? No, the municipal and technical committee meeting this month. It's the 19th. Okay, so we'll be meeting with your city and county staff on the 19th.
Great.
They all received a full, very thorough packet on Tuesday with all of the evaluation information on these projects. And we have put out an explicit request for them to tell us exactly which projects they feel really passionately about, so we can communicate that back to the community members.
Okay, so that, yes, I am sure they have wonderful information. Okay, great. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for all the questions. Do we have any public comment? I don't see any. All right, I
There's
thought
no
I
public
covered it.
comment.
I just want to make sure. All right. Thank you so much for presenting this and for keeping us up to date. We're going to move to the information item number 5, Senate Bill 125, Regional Transit Financial Conditions Assessment with Barbara von Bechtold.
All right, good morning, everybody. Barbara von Bechtold on your transportation team. So we're talking about our first task for our SB 125 long-term financial plan and recovery strategy. So to meet the requirements of SB 125, the transit funding program, SACOG has to submit that long-term financial plan and recovery strategy to the California State Transportation Agency, or CalSTA, by June 30th of 2026 for the 5 eligible public transit operators in our 4-county regional transportation planning agency area. So the priority for the financial plan and recovery strategy project is transit operator financial sustainability with a focus on maintaining existing services for those that rely on them and increasing transit ridership. So we're here today with our consultant, HDR, to give an overview of the first part of this project, which is our regional transit financial conditions assessment. The assessment establishes the financial baseline that will allow us to work further with our 5 transit operators to develop the long-term financial plan and recovery strategy. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to our HDR consultant staff to provide an overview of the assessment. This is the first part of this project.
Hi, I'm Matt Olson. I'm with HDR and I'm the project manager of this effort, Sacramento native, and very excited to speak with you all today.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Moriali, also with HDR, here supporting our engagement with the transit operators and to kind of kick off today's presentation. So hopefully you all received a copy of the report that we're going to be talking about today. And I can go to the next slide. So as you all know, transit's crucial to achieving the region's goals by 2050. We've got housing and employment growth projected in areas where existing transit is. We have GHG reduction targets we need to meet, and we've got equity considerations where households that don't have a car or low income are around our communities. And why is this important to the work we're doing today? Because it helps us outline some of the requirements that SB 125 has. And as Barbara mentioned, it's legislation enacted in 2023. It's a one-time multi-year bridge funding for transit operators and for operations, and capital improvements. And it has 2 distinct parts that we have to submit as part of the legislative requirements. The first is the top 2 items, which is a regional transit financial condition assessment, which includes a financial existing conditions review and cash flow. So basically, we're taking all the data that's publicly available, and we're doing an assessment of our current condition for transit operators today. Then the second phase of this is a long-term financial plan and recovery strategy that looks at what needs to be done, what could be done to keep transit operating at this level, at a future level, et cetera. And they all have to be submitted to the legislature, as Barbara said, by CalSTA by June 30th. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt to talk a little bit about the assessment, and then we'll take some questions.
Thank you, Lisa Marie. So as she shared, as part of our presentation, it's focused on the Regional Transit Financial Conditions Assessment. And it really is a high-level overview of where the transit operators are. And it will build then into an eventual long-term financial plan and that ridership retention and recovery strategy. And I do really want to highlight that because the SB 125 legislation is not necessarily just focused on a financial outlook. It's also on our communities and how we really want to envision transit for the future and how we can help operators connect with one another and really provide a seamless experience for our transit riders. So these were the regional transit operators that we profiled as part of this report: Sacramento Regional Transit, South County Link, YOLO Transportation District, Unitrans in Davis, as well as Yuba Sutter Transit. I do want to give a big thank you to all of the staff and the leadership at these transit operators. They've been incredibly helpful. As you'll note, within our methodology, we also had individual interviews with each of the operators to learn a little bit more about some of the pressures they're currently facing, as well as get a sense of what the long-term financial plan might look like. And as Lisa Marie mentioned, our primary data sources included the annual comprehensive financial report, so audited statements for each of the operators, National Transit Database reports that they submit to the federal government, as well as their own operating and capital budget documents reports. And these interviews were held in August of 2025. So this bar graph is pulled from National Transit Database, and what it's looking at is a comparison of 2019 levels to the previously submitted 2024 reports. And it shows across the region, 87% of our bus ridership has been recovered. I did want to make a note that we also have SAC-RT's light rail ridership recovered to 68% from their 2019 levels. So it is slightly uneven among the operators, but again, with the opportunity with this ridership retention recovery strategy report, there may be avenues and benchmarks when we look at other regions across the country that we can bring home here and really continue to boost and focus on our transit riders in the community.
Davis is killing it.
A lot of the students, yes.
Nothing, it's a competition.
We also wanted to highlight some of the three key themes within the report. So that first was that, again, ridership is recovering, but it is uneven. One of the other elements we wanted to note is that financial sustainability is precarious. So a lot of the operating revenues that our transit operators receive have not kept pace with some of the increases with operating expenses. So that is going to be something we're going to look in detail as part of the long-term financial plan, and that there was federal pandemic assistance, but it has primarily been depleted. And we did want to call out, as an example in the report, it's detailed some of the pressures as well with Measure A and Sacramento County. The third theme that we found in our report as well was the unfunded zero emission mandates and some of the pressures that they're putting on our operators' capital programs. So we found it important to highlight that CARB's innovative clean transit rule. With that layer of uncertainty, we also wanted to note the key dates that our operators are going to be facing. So in 2029, there will be a requirement that 100% of new purchases then are zero emission. And then by 2040, it will be a full transition to zero emission technologies. This is a big pressure, not just on the fleet and the vehicles that they're going to purchase, but also the infrastructure involved with their O&M facility, training for their operators, and then the ongoing replacement then of any affiliated technologies such as the batteries. As part of the analysis as well, we included a SWOT analysis, or strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So some of the strengths we noted are the recently enacted the 2025 blueprint, as well as the next generation transit strategy as a planning document to help guide our operators and the community going forward. New opportunities include potential new funding, as well as now shifting to what the new transit ridership looks like. I know that there's been a slower recovery with the return to office. So I know, for example, SAC-RT is doing something exciting, looking at their comprehensive operational analysis and how they might go to meet now the new transit riders with potential longer service. We also heard from YOLO TD about some of the items that they're looking at in their planning documents. And then I did want to note the weaknesses of complex and unstable funding. That's not necessarily just for discretionary funds to try to match the threat with the innovative clean transit rule, but also with instability with some of those federal formula funds, with state funds. And then we did want to note as a threat a lack of inter-operator coordination, and this is really something that will feed into the ridership retention and recovery strategy of opportunities then for all the operators to work together to, again, really provide a seamless transit rider experience. And that'll be a lot of these topics covered again in the next final report. So as I mentioned, our next steps, Lisa Marie is going to show you all in a little bit our timeline looking forward, but will be the long-term financial plan and the recovery strategy. And I'm going to pass it back to you to talk about the methodology for it.
Thank you. So after today, we will be going in 2 weeks to the full SACOG board to do a similar presentation. And then really in early 2026, our work ramps up with interviews with all the operators to talk about potential scenarios that could go into a model for that second report. We are holding an SB 125 working group that it consists of all the transit operators. And we've got a lot of analysis to do, a lot of input and reviews, and then we'll be coming back to you sometime in late Q1, early Q2 to present some of our findings and an ultimate action item by the end of June to submit the document by the requirement of June 30th. So with that, we'll hand it back over to you all.
Great, thank you very much. I don't have any, oh, do you have more, Barbara? I'm sorry.
No, just we're here for your
All right.
input and feedback, and want to know if you have any questions or want to have further discussion.
I don't have any papers for public comment, but was there any more public comment in the audience?
There's no public
Okay,
comment.
and I don't see any online, so let's get into this. Do we have questions? Director Branscombe.
Thank you, thank you. First, remind me, to what extent does SACOG have discretion over funding being passed through to the transit agencies?
Related specifically to SB 125?
related overall.
Well,
SB 125, okay, SB 125. Any discretion at all?
we do have discretion over, it. We're actually the administering agency for,
Over
we're
the what?
the administering agency for all of the SB 125 transit funds from the state for the 4 counties and all the operators that are eligible to receive.
I've
those
got a
funds.
couple more points, but this is an old one. I have, over the past, most of the past year, passed a question through to Rapid Transit through senior staff members here at SACOG for the following information. Cost per seat mile on the various operations, primarily the rail and the buses. Cost per seat mile, number one. And then average occupancy. So you can get down to a cost per occupied mile. And I know the question has been asked of SAC-RT, and they have not responded. I presume these numbers are in this National Transit Database. Are you aware of those numbers? I've been told by a former head of a transit agency in the central part of our state that these are federally mandated calculations. Anyway, this is important information, I think. And since, you know, we are a body that has some discretion and a reasonable question has been asked, and it's been asked multiple times, and there's been no response. It worries me that there's no response. And I'll just leave it at that, and I'd like you to pass that through. Interesting, the ridership is down 12% on the buses, but miles are down 27%. And that means the longer trips are not being taken. And then I just heard you talk about providing longer service, and the longer trips are not being taken. So there's a little bit of a conflict between the history or the data that we're seeing and then, well, let's go longer, but the longer trips aren't being taken. And I'd be interested in hearing, you don't have to answer now, how that gets resolved. And CARB, that unfunded mandate is going to be a problem that'll have to be solved over the next several years. But I do have that question outstanding. And I think it's important to know those numbers. And you look at expenses, and I'll finish with this, I won't take much longer. Over the period 22 to 24, labor and benefits went up 22%. So that's 2 years, right? So it's 11% a year. That seems pretty significant. It's well above inflation. And so you have, I presume, over this 4-year period where you're measuring the ridership's going like this, but expenses are going like this. Those are difficult curves to deal with. It's going to take an enormous amount of money. And it doesn't appear that the transit agencies are trying to curb the expense side of their portfolios. And interestingly, professional services went up in just 2 years, 46% to 25 million. I'm guessing maybe a lot of that is for lobbying, because there's do you know what drove that?
And you're talking about the SAC-RT, correct? Because I could see
SAC-RT,
I could see the photo.
That's what I'm looking at, yeah.
So-
SAC-RT went to up to 25 million, almost 26 million, and that was a 46% increase over the prior 2 years.
So the professional services category, as reported by the operators, is very broad. It includes labor agreements. So those numbers are inclusive of, let's say, a labor agreement that has a per year update per that labor agreement union. So that professional services would not just be one item. There are multiple items that feed into that number.
Okay, I hear multiple items. Are you saying if there's a labor agreement, part of the cost of the new labor agreement goes into professional services?
That's the way it's being reported, correct?
That's crazy.
So before we go on, I just want to say that we don't have the SAC-RT numbers, so I'm not really sure why we're discussing it.
They're right here in their report.
But
It's in the report. They
Oh,
can-
it's in the
they can
report.
find
Okay,
us.
okay, we
They
can find
us
it.
that page
All right.
and put it up there.
Yeah,
Could
Do you
anyway.
want to find,
Oh,
put that
put it
up? Because I really don't.
You don't have to answer this now. It's something that I've been in finance most of my career. I mean, someone looks at something like this and you see a 46% increase in 2 years in something that's ill-defined. It makes you wonder. Makes
And-
you wonder about the management of the operation.
And just so you know, our charge was to look at the data that exists today and report it out for that baseline. So what we did here is to say, here's what the data is showing, not necessarily in all examples as to why the data is showing that way. What we're doing in our next report is looking at what needs to happen to answer some of those questions you're raising today.
Well, great.
What actions could potentially be taken? What things could come out of potential scenarios for what the future needs to meet the requirements of the blueprint, to continue operations, et
You
cetera.
would be doing me a wonderful favor if you could get that cost per seat mile
Okay.
and then average load.
So
I really appreciate budget questions. Thank you. Director Clarici?
Help me out here. I thought we did something months ago now where we already spent most of the SB 125. We took a SB 125 action to basically, if memory serves correctly, allocated everything in the current program. Well, there was some money left over, which was the scary part, but we already took action. So this report, I mean, I know I actually operate an entity that has to make a 125 report, and we're doing it. You know, mine is tiny compared to this one, so it's, you know, but I understand that part of it. You have to, there's certain things, and they don't ask you a lot, you know, it's like it's actually pretty good reporting thing. But I thought we already spent all this money, or most 99% of it. And so what are we going to be doing with this effort? Because
we're going down.
help me out.
to a
What are we doing
different
with this
hotel.
effort?
I'm sorry,
our
teams
didn't win that damn
award. Oh, they didn't?
Hey, wait a second.
We can hear you, Bruce. Just mute yourself,
Vice-
sir.
Vice Chair Howdeshelt, Vice Chair Howdeshelt, if you can hear us, you are online.
There we go.
So I think you've got two different questions there. So one is, we do annually take an SB 125 allocation package. The last one was really solidifying year 3, but it was kind of like a preliminary, maybe conditional allocation for year 4 funds. We are going to come back with like a more firm allocation request for that. So we haven't gone through all of the funding yet. That was kind of like a look ahead of what likely, it kind of a placeholder, I would say.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think what we're doing with this is considered a long-term financial sustainability plan. It's required by the SB 125 funds in legislation that we do this. This is going to be our way to kind of look forward and figure out how we can better support and help our partners going forward to remain sustainable in the event that, you know, there's no more SB 125 money, right? We know that there's issues. So we're just trying to use this information as helping them.
That's fine. Thank you. And thank you for the clarification. My recollection is there was change in the box for year 4, relatively speaking. And I understand. Okay, I get it. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that.
If I can just add on to, I'll do my best to add
go
on to
right
Christina.
ahead.
So just to back up, right, and understand, remember what this is. So we're required to do a financial sustainability report because the legislature provided sort of a one-time infusion, right? Largely to stabilize transit operators. We go back before the pandemic. We were actually doing fairly well on ridership, right? The pandemic wrecked everything. And a lot of operators lost, obviously, ridership. They cut service. And so we've been in a recovery period. We are in a stabilization period. And the legislature has asked us and all of the MPOs and RTPAs around the state is, okay, this is a one-time infusion. How are we going to basically stabilize our current transit operators? This is not just a SAC-RT issue. It is not just a YTD issue. It's frankly a national issue. It is happening to transit operators everywhere as they try to pull back riders. If you want to talk about cost increases, yes, it's true on the transit side. It's true on the highway side and the bid side and the contractor side, right? So we're trying to figure out, and we really want to use this report, Director Clarici, to figure out what is the 5 to 10 year stabilization strategy for our transit operators, because either, frankly, we're going to have to figure out new sources of revenue. Largely, we'll have to figure out those on our own, or we're going to have to cut service. That's essentially what we have. And in the meantime, as you have, as you heard in the lunch that we had at the board meeting a couple of weeks ago, we have things like the requirements and the mandates that you heard in the presentation, right, from CARB, which will only increase the capital costs, right, sometimes 2x the current operator's budget. So this is really supposed to be, it is a requirement, but we're trying to use it as really a sort of a roadmap for how we can work with all of our transit operators to stabilize their financial situation.
Thank you so very much. Director Early.
So just a couple of comments on this. So one of the things that I saw, at least for my county, was I think a 49% as far as recovery of ridership. I think we had the lowest recovery. And so I will be fascinated to hear, as we're working through this, what are lessons learned from, whether it be across the country, but also from those who are doing well. Not only, you know, Unitrans, hey, we've got students, but what else is going on for some of those other transit operators that have been able to rebound more quickly and more significantly than we've been able to do. I am also curious within our ridership numbers, if that is our more recent inclusion of our Beeline, if that's included in there or not. Our chair is saying probably not. I'm seeing a yes nod from you. Unsure.
If you were to turn to the YOLO Transportation District profile, we do have DRT on there as well, and bus. That previous graphic was just to show a bus comparison.
Got you. Okay, which is apples to apples. So I actually don't have a problem with that at all. I was just curious about that. As relates to some of the questions that my colleague was asking around the cost per rider, I do think that's important information, especially as we're trying to figure out, you know, over the next 5 to 10, how do we stabilize? How do we sort of right size in regards to costs? And so would echo, I too would love to have that information as we're participating in this process of trying to support and understand just the financial viability and quite frankly, what the landscape will look like in the near future. It's something that we've been wrestling with at YTD regarding the inevitable fiscal cliff that's going to be coming. And so just, I do want to echo that because I too want to see it. And then what I would also say that I think, as you were talking about, that it looks like hours have gotten shorter or something like that, or the miles have gotten shorter. What was that? Yeah, I'm curious. And I won't speak to SAC-RT. I know at least for YTD though, what we've wrestled with is this idea of potential frequency, but also having to already, especially during COVID, make some cuts in regards to our services and again, the right sizing. Last thing, what I will say on in regards to just labor and some of that conversation that we've had, or that you were noting, at least for us, all costs are up. And so I would say the same thing that we heard from Director Corliss, is that everything is more expensive, and not like a little more expensive, significantly more. And so I think, and it's going to continue to rise. And so wrestling with lower ridership, which also means lower revenue, but higher expenses. And I think we have been kicking the can down the road as just a transportation industry for a very, very, very long time. And it's time, there is no more can to kick, there is no more road. We're gonna have to face this in the next 5 years.
Time to pick up some cans.
It's time to, right?
Right. I really appreciate this discussion, and it seems like the kicking the can now, you know, weighs 100 pounds. It's really hard to kick. So I had some follow-up comments. I was shaking my head when you were saying that you have ridership data for microtransit. And my framing for that is that in 2025, microtransit for, say, our YOLO Transportation District, we have far more microtransit buses. So the availability has increased greatly.
Right.
And the hours of availability have increased greatly, and the usage have increased greatly in 2025. And the numbers from before 2025 wouldn't reflect that because we didn't have those buses, we didn't have those hours,
Yep.
didn't have that usage because it wasn't available. And so I think that's important to know. And then as far as ridership, I just wanted to, it's a pretty low bar, but I really want to know if what ridership software is being used by agencies and how accurate they think it is. How accurate is it for, for the bus compared to microtransit? Is it being actually taken on microtransit? And also maybe the all the rides that people attempt to get, but it's already booked. I mean, those, I know there's a name for that. I can't think of it right now, but it is important. And then another one was, this is super low hanging fruit. You were talking about integrated planning. And I think integrated planning is really important, but do we have this is like a baseline? Do we have a baseline of what's a youth, what's a senior, what's a student? Because if we're calling those all different things in every county, I think it's hard to compare, especially when we have university towns. Those things, they all matter. And I think if we knew what software was most accurate for that, we would be able to support our other agencies with their future choices. So I wanted to go back to that. Those are my comments. Do we have any other comments?
Chair Lauren,
Yes.
if I just could, a few final thoughts. One is, I think, just for the SAC-RT numbers, because we've been working really closely with them, as we have with all the operators, because we have to actually update a regional transit MOU, which is the federal funds that flow through. While the recovery, as you saw from the numbers there on sort of bus and light rail, SAC-RT bus actually has recovered to 100%. So that's the good news, but light rail is down. Why is light rail down? State workers, right? So downtown and state workers is a huge component of the ridership. So what happens with pulling the state workers back to the state jobs, that will be a big driver in terms of light rail ridership. The other, which is not a short-term strategy, but is we can't go through this conversation without saying land use, land use, land use, especially around the high capacity corridor. So the more that we can get housing and jobs and green means go, the more we're building in ridership that is permanent. And then finally, even though we're not 100% recovered, as you saw from the numbers in terms of ridership, you would imagine, or you would probably say to yourself, the Sacramento International Airport is a very important economic generator in this region. There are more rides every year on transit than there are passengers that flow through the Sacramento International Airport. So yes, those are multiple repeat customers, but these is important services, which just goes back to how important it is that we figure out a regional strategy, how to stabilize in the next couple of years. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Do we have anything else on item number 5? Very important item. Just want to really thank you for bringing it forward today and having a robust discussion. For item number 6, we are going to kick that can to February. No, we're going to postpone the item. In other matters, I would like to ask staff if there are any comments on other matters today. Okay.
We have a public comment online. We don't.
Oh, we have a
typically
public
this,
comment
but
online?
because we have the notice
Oh.
members, it's a little bit different today.
Thank you. Let's take the public comment online. Is it Ilya?
No.
No.
Just stand by 1 second, Chair.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay. We have
What?
Wandamu Minjitsu from
Sacramento.
Sacramento RT.
Yes.
Welcome,
Hello.
SAC-RT.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I just want to give us some clarification with regard to some of the comments. We have been working with SACOG in terms of providing those necessary information in terms of SAC-RT's ridership ridership, all the data we report to FTA for NTD report. We shared those information with SACRT for Director's Branscombe question. I think that was 4 or 5 months ago. So we compiled the data of our past NTD report and comparison with our peers. We provided that. In terms of professional service, it's not only include legal service, but includes transit, security, equipment, facilities, maintenance, and other services provided by consultants. So we'll continue to provide this information in the coming weeks. I will continue to work with SACOG staff to provide more information. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment.
There's no other public comment.
Okay.
Yes.
As I said, we don't have item 6, but we do have our great Executive Director, James Corliss.
I've said enough. Back to you.
Really?
Thank you.
All right.
love it.
That was really quick. A lot of words, man of small words, or few words. I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to this board for all the support, for all the great questions, for the knowledge of this body and commitment to not only your cities, but to the region, and having this opportunity to be part of it. Thank you very much. I also wanted to thank staff for just, always making sure that I know what's coming and having a good sense of humor when I don't. Also, I just wanted to thank Rich Desmond and Bruce Hadeschelt for having, just being solid partners in this. I know that Rich couldn't be there today. Anyway, I just wanted to thank all of you. And last, the next meeting of the committee will be held on February 5th, 2026. See you in 2 weeks.
Madam Chair, don't close this meeting
Not
yet.
gaveling yet. Okay.
All right. I mean, I want to thank you for, it's a team effort between our professional staff and the leadership of all the boards and commissions. And so thank you for being a gracious chairperson on some really complex conversations. So we'll see you soon.
All right. Can we just clap ourselves out today? Can we do that? Sure.
Since we don't have a meeting until February, as far as our next transportation meeting is concerned, however you celebrate the holidays, have a wonderful holiday celebration with family, friends, and incredible food. Enjoy yourselves.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Very well done.
Thank you. All right. Meeting adjourned. 11:22. 3.